Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of APIs for AI, where the Treble team builds AI applications using different languages and frameworks. We want you to follow along on these sessions with us, where we demo different LLM APIs and the best way to build APIs. Today, I have with me Rahul Kimchi, who will be demoing the Treble ExpressJS SDK along with what he's built with it. Hi, Rahul, how are you doing?
Hi Pratim, I'm good and I'm super excited to demo the application. So the application is AI image classifier, which is an AI app that uses ExpressJS, and we are using Ollama here, which is a
Okay.
free and local LLM that we can use on our machine. So I'm using the Moonstream model for it to classify the image, and of course I'm integrating Treble with it so that I can get the complete picture of the observability and of my API, that how it is working and how I can make it better.
Amazing. I'm super excited. For anyone who's coming to our YouTube or to this video for the first time and is not aware of Treble, Treble is an API intelligence platform. And if you have an API, you can plug any Treble SDK in your API and get complete understanding of the API landscape. What is happening with your API requests, what is happening with the API governance, what is happening with the complete API discoverability issue there. And yeah, I'm super excited, Rahul, to see the demo of this app. So it would be great if you could give us a demo quickly.
Yeah, sure. Let me start with the demo. So as you can see the front end here, I will start with the email and password. So when I log into the AI image classifier, it asks me for adding an image. So let's
Okay.
say I add an image of my graduation day.
Oh,
So if I ask about what is this person wearing, and
right.
that's it. If I click on classify image, it will take around 9 to 10 seconds to explain what it is. So this app basically, okay, it is done. This person in the image is wearing a black graduation gown and cap.
Of course.
So that's it. That's how this application work. It has the model use, image size, timestamp, processing time, and other information. So that was about the
Perfect.
demo. Yeah.
That's really cool. And I think I would definitely be interested in like using something like this to maybe sort out my cupboard or my wardrobe where there are a lot of clothes, and I can just plug in the app and ask it like, hey, what should I choose to wear, right? Like, and the image classification would work in a similar way.
Absolutely. So you just need to swap the AI model. These are the
Okay.
API starter kits. So you swap the AI model and then you can use it just like what
Perfect.
I showed you. Yeah.
That's really cool. We spoke about the fact that this app has been built using the Treble's ExpressJS SDK, and there are other SDKs that people can use to build similar apps as well. So, how can like can you give us a bit of more idea about the ExpressJS SDK and how can someone get started with it?
Okay. So let me walk you through the SDK documentation first. So
Sure.
the documentation is only of three steps. You need to install it via npm, and then
Okay.
you need to set up the credentials, which is API key and project ID, and the third one is you need to set up the middleware. So with these three steps, you can integrate Treble's SDK to your application, and then you can capture the request in the Treble dashboard.
Got it. Got it. You mentioned that we will add these configurations on the middleware, and I think this is a great point for us to enter the fact that why does this API even have a middleware? Or like if you're starting to build an API, what are the best practices for the architecture, for the design and the whole structure of an API? Can we start from there?
Yeah, sure. So the thing is, this is the API Starter Kit repository, and
Okay.
by the way, it's all open source. You can go and check it out. So this is the Express one. So in every API Starter Kit, we have followed the seven key lessons for building good REST APIs, which is built by Treble, where you can see that how to create better REST APIs. So we follow
Right.
the seven different practices, and from that seven practices, I'm using these four practices in my API. So the seven
Okay.
are design, security, performance, documentation, adoption, governance, and monetization. But for this tool, specifically, if someone want to create and get started with building APIs, the best thing is to follow the seven principles.
Makes sense, because I don't think monetization is something that we are going for this example, right? This is a
Yeah,
demo app over which we will people can build different AI apps. So once you're at a point where you were to make your app or your product public and actually have a payment layer,
yeah.
is when the monetization rule would come into picture, right?
Yes, absolutely. But I think design, security, performance, and documentation should be the main priority for anyone who is getting started with building the REST APIs. So yeah,
Right. Perfect. I want us to go towards the Treble platform and understand about how did you get started with the setup. But if we can spend another minute on understanding like these design specifics that you mentioned, that would be super cool. So I see on the screen that we've spoken about like the restful experience. And even when we are talking about security, we talk about multi-layered protection. Can you tell us more about what is the restful experience and what is the multi-layered protection?
yeah. So everyone know how to build APIs, but what differentiate them is how to structure your API design. So let's say
Right.
you are using nouns instead of verbs. So these are the small things which you can change, which can help you. For example, sticking to standard HTTP methods like get, post, delete, and always versioning your API from the start, so that
Right.
you know that which version should work and what changes I need to do in the second version.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Basically, for backward compatibility, it's always good to go from one version to another version instead of like just making changes to your API without any versioning, and then your customer or your user has no idea about
Yes.
when they need to update or upgrade to the next version. So, like, I, I understand what changes have been done to V2 and what were in V1 and what were there in V0. So it's a gradual understanding for me to go ahead with that. Correct. Makes sense.
Yeah. The second thing comes is security. Now, any authentication is better than none.
Right.
So we need at least one security. Maybe you can use OAuth, JWT. So we are using JWT here for the security purposes. And one thing which is that you should always use HTTPS instead of HTTP,
Of course.
which
Yeah.
makes sense because we all need secure web applications. So
Okay.
yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Um,
That's yeah. Then
sorry.
we
Sorry.
have performance and documentation. So performance means using caching, pagination, and other things to make your application smooth. So the developer experience and performance becomes better. And the best part about the documentation is I don't need to think much about it because Treble automatically generates my API documentation. But there are some standards that we need to follow is using Open API spec for the documentation and include example request and just explain what are the error responses with context so that some if you are using my API you have clear image that how to debug it by yourself.
Makes sense. Got it. I think we have a lot to cover. One thing I'd like to get out of the session early in the session is that in every episode we will be focusing on one major aspect that we will discuss and talk about. I know we discussed about documentation, pagination, performance, and everything, and I don't think we'll be able to cover it in the next 20 minutes. So today, let's focus on understanding how a request is processed and how the request can be seen on Treble. Does that make sense to you, Rahul?
Absolutely. We can start with how if someone is coming to Treble, what are the first initial steps that they need to take in order to capture the request.
Perfect. Cool. Then I think we can get started and let's see how anyone can integrate the Treble SDK in their API.
Okay, so let's go to the API intelligence platform, Treble. I'll sign in and
Okay.
I'll sign in with Google. It will take just 30 seconds.
So you can use Google, you can use GitHub, or you can use any other way as
SSO.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can also use SSO if your company provides a single sign-on, social sign-on, stuff like
Perfect.
that. So now these are the workspaces, and I
Yeah.
have this API starter kit here. And if I go to APIs, here you can see Node.js API starter kit. But for example, if you are a newbie, if you're just coming to the platform, the first thing you
Okay.
need to do is add a new API here. So once
Okay.
you add a new API, let's just use weather here. Example, uh, okay,
I think you
let's
just
use 3001.
okay.
Why
Oh.
it's showing this?
Oh, interesting. So let's try
Yeah.
some. Oh,
So
perfect.
let me do development and platform, let's say Express. Now I can also invite you. For example,
Okay.
if I want to invite my team members, I can invite it from them. If I want to make this API private so that if you are a part of it, but only I want to see it, then I can make this private. So
Right. Right.
once I add new API, I get this information. Step one, to read the Treble Express SDK.
Okay.
Here are the steps, and these are the two main things, which is API ID and SDK token, which will help Treble to know where to capture my request, that we will be seeing in some time.
Perfect. Um, when you were setting up the API, Rahul, I saw that we had a whole view of all your projects on Treble. What is that called? And like, if it's not my first API, and if I'm joining somebody else's workspace, what is that whole view called?
Oh, this one, are you talking about this
The
one
home,
or
the home
this
view,
one?
the home view. Yes, the home one.
Yeah. So this is API discovery, where you can
Okay,
discover all your APIs at one single workspace.
got
So
it.
yeah.
Perfect. Okay, then, and for the you mentioned that in the middleware we add the API key and the project ID. How does one get that, and from where can they get that for their APIs?
Yeah, I think let me just show you how I integrated it in my Express app,
Okay,
so it would make it more easy for you. For
got it.
example, in my app.js, I mentioned it here, API key and project ID, and I
Hmm.
have also masked password token authorization API key. So
Okay,
we can also mask what we need to show in Treble dashboard, right? And in my env example, you can see that I am adding Treble API key and project ID. So
got it.
once I take it from here, in the weather, if I go here, I copy it here and I paste it in my env example, then my app.js captures it, and then my request gets to show in the Treble workspace.
Okay, so basically that's how we can connect any API with the yeah, Treble platform and get all your requests and get all your API metadata to be shown on the platform.
Yeah, you are right. So let me show you what you asked for, the Express API starter kit. So recently we tested this graduation thing. So
Right.
you can see the request came here. Let's
Okay.
try with a different example.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's say I add a different example of a setup and I ask, what is this?
Just
And
a
click
plain
on
what is it? Okay.
classify image. Yeah.
You
So once,
mentioned that
yeah, sorry.
no, sorry for cutting you, but you mentioned that we are using Moondream over here. So these API requests are like this prompt is actually being processed by Moondream to figure out what the image is about.
Yes, and as you can see, it's local host. So I'm
Ah,
not using any LLM. I'm using local LLM. That's why
right.
Ollama is needed here so that I can check it. So I asked, what is this? It says this image features the room with this stuff. Now let's go to Treble and see if it captured it. So if
Okay.
I go to request, so as you can see a few seconds ago, so
Uh-huh.
this is the request that it captured. Now if I need a different view, so I can also click here and I can see this prompt. What is this? So it says classification, the image features this, image hash node, image hash, image size, Ollama processing time, time step, user ID, classification ID. So I get all this information at a single place.
Right. We also had the concept like we also masked the data, right? So masking would come into the picture if my request had some sensitive data, right?
Yes. So the thing is, if in Treble's documentation of masking field, it is mentioned that we automatically mask some important data without
Got it.
showing it. For example, credit card. uh, so these are the examples, like credit card, password, secret. So if you have any of this in your code, we mask it automatically. But if you want to mask it manually, if you want to mask something specifically, then you can ask, then you can make it like this. In app.js, you
In
can go
the
down here.
mask,
Here, additional field to mask. So
yes.
API keys, authorization. So that's how you mask additional fields.
So you just add another comma and you add another field that you want to be masked. For example, I think when I'm talking, if some it was about this app where we are talking about
Yeah.
images, and if this images was about recognizing number plates or something like what is the number plate of this? You just want to understand the state from which a car is coming, but you don't want the exact number. You could probably add an exact number, and that number would then be masked after it was converted, right?
Yes, you're right
Perfect.
with him. Yeah.
What are the
So
other tabs we have around body, like after body, around authorization, documentation, and headers?
yeah, so that's the request and response, but you can check the authorization that the value is already masked, the JWT
Okay.
token that we are using. And
Ah, yeah.
yeah, so it is already masked. And then the documentation, and then comes the headers. So these
Okay.
are all the information, but this is the general information that you get, but you get more than it, like info, security, API compliance, and metadata. So if you go into info, you can see that which operating system I'm using, which protocol I'm
Right.
using, what is, where is this user IP coming from. Well, I'm from India, but it is showing stops
No,
with
I think
trust.
I think it's picking up. I think your user ID is masked. That's why it's giving Bogan as
Yeah.
a keyword for that. Okay.
Yeah. Then comes the device type, that is desktop. So it helps me to understand that who are my users, where are they coming from, where are they using. So then comes the security part. So
Right.
security, in security, we prioritize security based on three impacts: high, medium, and low. So we
Right.
give pass and fail status to all the security. So you might see, like many of them are OWASP 10 top 10 security risk, and then comes some more additional security risk that you need to check, like security policy, authorization, SQL injection, rate limiting. So I can see that all of these are failing. So now I can go back, change my code, and work around the security to how to make
Makes
it
sense.
100% pass.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. You spoke about you can see where the customers are coming from and like what are the different requests. What do I do if I want to like filter all the 500 or like internal error requests or
Yeah.
user not found kind of errors? How do we filter in Treble?
Yeah. So you can see that right now I have 19 requests, and I need to
Okay.
filter that which requests are not working. So
Okay.
we have this filter feature here. For
Okay.
example, I can add a method, that particular method, if I want, I can add a response code. For example, if I want to add all the response codes which are, let's say,
Over.
unauthorized,
Yeah.
right? So, and if I click on, I can select the endpoints here, but let's just see response code for
Over.
401 here.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can see these are the two requests which got 401, which are unauthorized. So now when I
Got
click it, I get the information that who was this person, what are they doing, no account found with this email, please register first. So now it helps me that people are logging in without registering. So I
it.
can
Right.
add a line there, please register if you are new here. So it helps
Right.
me with small things. Yeah.
Okay.
And
This is great.
yeah. So I was talking about this five topics. We talked about security info in general. Let me talk about compliance too. So
Okay.
in compliance, you get a complete picture of, is your API compliant with GDPR, PCI, CCPA, HIPAA, and last comes the metadata. Here it is not showing because I don't have much information on my API, but you can see the load time, response size, and the thread on this API request. So that was about the API request on Treble.
Right. So this is a great way for me to filter requests and to see what are the different kinds like according to my categories. But does
Yeah.
that mean do I have to always go to the platform and go through my filtered requests to see what are the errors? Is there a way that I don't have to worry about going through my filtered requests
So, Pratim, you don't need to come to the Treble platform to check if you have any 401, 503
or
errors.
any
What you
errors?
can do is you can filter it out for once. Let's say I filter out for all the, uh, let's say 500. Oh, I'll go here and I'll write 500. Yeah, internal server errors. And
Okay.
I will create a save search here. As you can
Oh,
see here, it
yeah.
is the save search. So when I
Okay.
click it and it asks me to give it a name, so I'll say 500 errors and save search. So now what will happen is this filter is already saved. Now I don't need to come again and filter it out every time. So for the next time, if you come to the platform, you don't need to filter it out every time. What you can do is in the right side, you see the saved search, says saved search. So if I
Okay.
click on 500 error, it will
Right.
show me only the errors which are with 500 API request.
Okay.
Now
Okay.
there are few more functionality. For example, save search is done, but if I need alerts, which we'll be looking in the further videos, that you can also get alerts through your email, Slack with all this error request.
Makes sense.
So yeah.
That was super helpful, Rahul. I think I have a complete understanding of how any request can be mapped into Treble, and I have much more clarity about who is using my application now. Can we understand how can someone understand more deeper about their requests, like specifically their endpoints, their customers, and what problems they're facing?
We have all this information here, but let's save this for the future videos because we have a lot
Okay,
of SDKs. This is the first video for Express, but we will come with Node, Go,
right,
all the JavaScript SDKs, Laravel. So we have a lot of stuff to cover, but
right.
this was just a start.
Yes, definitely. I think it makes sense for us to save these topics for the next videos. And with this, we come to a conclusion for our first episode where we spoke about how to build APIs for AI using Treble and Treble SDKs. In this video, Rahul helped us see how you can build an image classifier app using the Treble ExpressJS SDK and the Express framework. In the next video, we will talk about another Treble SDK and another AI app that we'll be building. And until then, you can find all the links to these projects and the Treble documentation in the description for this video. And that's it. See you in another video. And thank you so much for being here. Rahul, thank you for being a great co host with me.
Thank you for having me, Pratim. Bye bye.
See you another next time. Bye bye.